Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacy. This is going to be a video for the books that I read for the first half of January. I'm having a pretty good reading month, as in like how much I'm reading, and I don't want to get to the end of the month and not remember these books, which is what would probably happen because my memory is terrible. So I thought I would do a half month wrap up, which isn't what I normally do, but we'll see how it goes. I also wanted to add in a fun literary mocktail at the end of this wrap up. I just thought it would be really cool to come up with a literary mocktail, which is like a cocktail but without alcohol. You could add alcohol if you want to, but I'm making mine without it to go along with a book that I read every month. So yeah, I'm going to have a fun drink at the end of this, so stick around for that if you're interested. But let's go ahead and get into the books that I read. Okay, the first one that I finished was Fair as a Star by Mathews. I gave this one 4 stars. Mathews is typically one of my favorite authors, really. She is like a go-to. I have enjoyed, I think, all of the books that I've read of hers, except Gentleman Jim. I didn't like as much as the others, but I still really enjoy her writing. She writes historical, clean fiction. It's not Christian, but it's clean. And I think most of her stuff is set in like the late 1800s, early 1900s maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, Fair as a Star is about a woman who was set to marry a neighbor, really, a family friend who had money. And they grew up as friends, but they weren't really a match, you know? Like there wasn't a whole lot going on between them. And she was also dealing with depression. And at this time, there wasn't a whole lot known about depression or what to do for it or like what was the cause of it, all that kind of stuff. So she talks a lot about what she's feeling while she's going through these bouts of depression and how she's trying to handle it. So to kind of deal with that, her family sends her with her aunt to Paris for like 6 months to go, I don't know, spend it off, like spend the depression away kind of thing. And when she comes back, she's supposed to marry the neighbor, but someone who she actually loves is around. I don't want to give away like spoilers, but she ends up having a much stronger relationship with someone else. And so yeah, I really like this book. I think the mental health stuff was done really good. There wasn't anything that was setting off her depression, so there aren't really any triggers or anything for this book. So yeah, I think it was handled really well. I liked all the conversations that they had about it. So the next one I read was Most Likely to Die by Christy Barritt. I think this was the it was the last book in the True Crime Junkies series that I have been reading for the last year. I gave this one 4 stars because there's other books in the series that I liked better than this one. But for the final book, it was really good. You got everything wrapped up really nicely. In the book before this, there was another thing that had been going on through most of the books that got wrapped up, and then in the last book the last thing gets wrapped up. So yeah, I really liked it. Again, I can't say much about it because it's like book 7 or 8 in a series, but it's about a group of podcasters in Alaska who solve true crime mysteries. Highly recommend the series. Someone did ask me on Goodreads and I forgot to go back and answer them though, so if you are the person who asked me and you're watching this, about the like violence level in these books. Some of them have more violence than others. These are Christian romantic suspense books, and I don't know why publishers even use the word suspense in a lot of these books, because to me, when you have like serial killers or, you know, horrific deaths or whatever, that's a bit more than suspense. So yeah, I would label some of these are definitely on the high end of that. Some are on the lower end. So the last book and this book I just finished are on the lower end of violence. Am I making any sense? I don't know. Each book is different. They are all very different. So I can't answer that very easily. I'm sorry. The next one I read, I actually own, which is kind of a rarity, and I did not read the physical copy of this. I listened to this. I think I mentioned this before, but I have been listening to audiobooks every night while I'm cooking dinner, and it has changed my life. So I listened to this while I was cooking dinner, and this was such a good book. I give this one 5 stars, but this is not going to be for everyone. This is a historical fiction mystery book about a detective who gets called to West Point Academy in New York. This takes place in like late fall, winter time. So the setting of this was perfect. There was lots of snow and cold and dreariness going on. But he gets called to go to West Point to try to help solve a murder that happened. And while he's working on the case, he gets introduced to a cadet, Edgar Allan Poe. And he is young, maybe around 20-ish. And Poe, in all of his weirdness and creepiness, wants to help the detective solve the murder. They develop a friendship through this, and their dialogue and their banter and stuff is just, it's so fun. I just really loved the scenes with Poe, especially. Young Poe was such a weird guy, and I just was here for it. The writing for this was very much like Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I love. The writing is a bit flowy and very pretty. I don't really know how to describe it, but again, it's not going to be for everybody. Some parts are a little slower, some parts are a little faster. There are murders in this. There are scenes with, like, I don't want to give anything away. But if you think about Poe's writing, his stories, the kind of stuff that Poe writes about is in this book, if you know what I mean. So if you are a fan of Poe, I think you would really like this. If you are not a fan of Poe and that type of writing, I don't think you would like this. So there's that. Then I finished a book called The Blizzard Brides by Stirling. This one was a very short book. It's a novella, and it's part of a pretty long series, and it's about this town in Nebraska, and a crazy blizzard hits the area where all of the men from the town are out like in a hunting party trying to gather food for the winter. The blizzard hits and all the men die. So this is kind of depressing. It is depressing. It's not kind of depressing. All the men die, and that leaves all the women in town alone, and winter is coming. And they can't be left alone like that, so they put out an ad in a paper for husbands. So this book is very short, and then it goes into like the first bride getting her husband. I think I want to read that. I'm interested in the rest of the series. This story was really good. There is lots of faith in this, very heavy on the faith. And I like the snowy setting in Nebraska. Did not like what happened to all the men. That was so sad. But it was a really good story. And the last book I read, you can see I'm in like my snow era. So I read The Diamond Eye. Again, I did not read this as a physical book. I listened to this on audio. I did pick it up at the library because the library was taking back my audiobook when I was at like 80% of this book. But let me just tell you, crisis averted, because the next morning after I got this book, the library gave me my audiobook back. So I didn't have to read this. But yeah, by Kate Quin, did I say that? This is about a Russian woman who is a sniper, and this is based off of her real story. This was a real woman. I had never heard of her, and there was a whole lot I didn't know about snipers or women in the military in Russia. It was obviously very different than how we treat women here for the military. There were no American women snipers in World War II, so it was very different culturally between the two countries. And a big part of this book is her and a bunch of other Russian delegates, snipers, high up military people. They end up going to America to talk to President Roosevelt, and Eleanor Roosevelt becomes her friend, and they travel around the country and give speeches and talks about the plight of the Russian people. So at this time, the Russians were fighting the Nazis, and they wanted America to join into the war to help Russia fight against Hitler. Fascinating stuff. So I learned a lot, but I feel like this was kind of long, And I think I might have preferred to watch a documentary about this because I would be visualizing the stuff. I don't know. I think a documentary might have been better, is what I'm trying to say. It was a really good book, though. I learned a lot. I think I would read more from Kate Quinn. I do love historical fiction, so I think I'd read more from her. All of her books get really high ratings. If you guys have read any of her books and you like them, let me know if there's one I should read first. But yeah, it was really good, and I think I gave it 4 stars. And that being said, the literary mocktail that I'm going to make is a White Russian to go along with a snowy Russian tail. So yeah, if you're interested in that, stick around. If not, I will see y'all soon. All right, let's make this mocktail. You're going to need some brown sugar, cinnamon sticks, vanilla extract, some espresso. I am using powdered, sweetened condensed milk, cold brew or leftover coffee, and I forgot to show it, but you're also going to need regular milk or almond milk or whatever milk you use. In a pot, you're going to add water, the cinnamon sticks, and brown sugar. You're going to stir it until the brown sugar is dissolved. When that's dissolved, remove from the heat, and you're going to whisk in the espresso powder and the vanilla until that is dissolved. Put some ice in a mason jar or a cocktail shaker. Add your milk and the sweetened condensed milk. Put the lid on that nice and tight because you're going to give this a really good shake until all of those things are really well combined. Then you're going to take your cold brew or your leftover coffee and add it to the jar, just like this. And then you're going to take the sauce mix that you made on the stove and add that in as well. Which apparently it looks like I forgot to film that part. Sorry about that. But this is what your White Russian mocktail is going to look like. The recipe is linked down below. If you make it, you should really let me know. And you should make it. It was absolutely amazing. Especially if you love cinnamon and coffee. All right, I'll see you later.